This video we will show you how you can create a cross-section of MIHPT logs in DI Viewer. This is going to be the same principle for any of the DI log types. Currently we are looking at an MIHPT log in single log view, which is going to display any of the saved graphs associated with the log. Currently we are showing electrical conductivity, HPT pressure, and corrected pressure, which is a calculated parameter. So to get these logs into the cross section, there's a couple different ways you can do that. So we have a group of logs over here on the left. One way is we can right click on one of these logs and then select add to cross section. And this is asking if we want to load HPT dissipation test info, which we're not going to. This is now showing electrical conductivity in that, so we can add other logs in the same way, or we can come down in the lower right corner and add logs from here. Go to the file, we can add numerous logs at one time, highlight a bunch of them and add them in here. We're going to continue to add logs until we get 6 logs to show up for our demonstration. Add a couple more. And these are opening up the electrical conductivity graph for each of these logs. It's the only one that's showing. We are showing synced scales. Now I just unchecked the sync scale box, so they're auto-scaled, and we're showing electrical conductivity only. You can change the primary parameter if we wanted to go to HPT pressure. That's what this looks like here. And now we're going to go to a secondary axis, which is the XSD, which is a MIP detector data. So I'm going to highlight that and go onto a data point, which you see the box that's on there. I'm going to right click on a data point and come down to detector 3 max properties. From here I can go to fill and make that visible, increase the transparency, and that'll allow, in this case, the detector data to stand out a little bit more from the electrical conductivity. In this cross section, since we do not have the sync scales button selected on the bottom, the HPT data is at different scales for each of the logs. And that's even more evident at the bottom with the detector graphs. When we do select sync graph scales, you're going to see that all the HPT graphs and the detector graphs go to a uniform scale for each of the logs. Now another feature that's pretty useful for putting these logs in order is by right clicking on one of the graphs and then coming down and selecting to move the graph left or right. That is going to help you to be able to put things in order, assuming they didn't load in proper cross-sectional order. Next, if your site has a lot of differences in height on the surface, elevation differences, you got that information afterwards after it's been surveyed. You can come in to the log and enter that elevation data for each of the logs as we're entering it in here. Select the log and enter it in. This log looks a little messed up because one of those logs, number 7, is significantly higher than the rest, so we're going to fix that. And then come in here and turn the elevation off and back on, and that should reset this to an appropriate height. So here's what that looks like. So we have around about a 7-foot difference between the 6 logs that are showing here, and so that's going to help to be able to really make good observations for subsurface changes and contaminant changes when you do have differences in elevation height on the surface. Because we have 6 logs in the cross section, we need to go up to File and Page Setup, and we need to change the orientation from portrait mode, which only allows 4 logs to print per page, to landscape, which will allow up to 6. We're going to now select Print, and we're going to select either our printer or a PDF, which is what I'm going to do here. Go to PDF Creator, and the footer information, if what was entered in at the time of the log being created is what you want to print for whoever's getting this, if that's all accurate, you can use that, or else you can select Source and go down to Manually Enter and enter some new information that's going to be appropriate for the site and for what you have there. Now I'm going to remove the INF file. You can print it, but you don't have to. I'm going to increase the graphs per page to 6, and then we're going to select OK. Now we'll enter the name for our PDF, Enter that in here and hit save, and it should convert it over, and we'll get our printout. And there it is, a cross section with elevation changes.